One of the biggest mistakes that people make when they start to sew with knit fabric is choosing the wrong knit fabric for their project. I myself had to throw away a few failed projects in the beginning because they didn't fit or they just looked terrible. But this helped me to learn how important it was to pick the right knit fabric for my projects. Today I'm going to share with you exactly what you should look for when picking a knit fabric so that this doesn't happen to you. Hi, I'm Adrienne from Sew PDF, and I've been sewing for about 25 years. In this video, we're going to go over the different characteristics of knit fabric and how they'll affect the shape and the fit of the clothing that you sew with them. Whether you're shopping for fabric online or in person at a shop, it's equally important to know how to evaluate the fabric. But especially when you're shopping online, you need to be able to read the descriptions and know what the different descriptors mean so you know if you're picking the right kind of fabric. A good online fabric shop will include descriptors such as the stretch percentage, the direction of the stretch, and the weight of the fabric. Right now, I'm filming in one of my favorite shops, which is Loiseau Fabrics in Calgary, Alberta. So as I mentioned, the stretch percentage is one of the main descriptors that is used for fabric. And stretch can be measured both vertically and horizontally. You might see the terms two-way stretch or four-way stretch, although sometimes it's described as one-way and two-way stretch, but most commonly it's two-way and four-way stretch. I'm going to use this beautiful sparkly sweater knit to demonstrate two-way stretch. So this fabric, the grain line is running along the selvage as it always does, and it stretches cross grain. So it stretches two ways, to the left and to the right, cross grain. It has a little bit of give vertically with the grain, but that's often referred to as mechanical stretch. So it's a little bit of give, but it's not a true stretch. But it's got quite a lot of stretch this way. So this is a classic example of a two-way stretch. Now there are a lot of fabrics that do stretch along the grain and not cross grain like this. So it's the opposite two-way stretch. Now a four-way stretch is going to be in all directions. So vertical and horizontal with the grain and cross grain. And technically, a four-way stretch needs to stretch in both directions at the same time. So this is pretty much impossible to demonstrate because I can't stretch it both directions at the same time. But if you picture when you're wearing a pair of leggings, it needs to be able to stretch vertically, for example, when you bend your knees, but it also needs to be able to stretch horizontally around your legs and the rest of you. Most four-way stretch fabrics will have similar amounts of stretch, both with the grain and cross grain. But there are some fabrics that will have different amounts of stretch, like say perhaps 30% in one direction, but then 50% in another direction. Most sewing patterns for knit fabrics will recommend a minimum stretch percentage for the fabric that you use for that pattern. And it's very important that you use a fabric that has adequate stretch, because if you don't, it might not fit, or it might be just a lot tighter than you've intended. As I mentioned before, when you're shopping online for a fabric, it'll often list the stretch percentage right in the listing. But if you're shopping for fabric in person or using a fabric that you already have on hand, you'll need to measure the stretch percentage yourself. I've put a link in the description of this video for more information on how to measure the stretch percentage. Another important factor is the recovery of the stretch. So this means whether or not the fabric will go back to its original shape after it's been stretched. If it has excellent stretch recovery, it will go right back to its original shape. And if it has poor stretch recovery, then once you stretch it out, it will stay stretched out. And if you use this for items that are meant to stretch, then you're going to end up with a baggy, shapeless garment. When you're looking at stretch recovery, you also need to look at how easily the fabric stretches. So for example, this bamboo jersey very easily stretches to probably at least 100%. An athletic knit will also stretch to 100%, but it gives a lot more resistance when you're trying to stretch it, and when you're wearing it, it's trying to go back to its original shape while you're wearing it, which makes it feel tighter. This is called compression. And this is something that people don't talk about a lot, and it's not something that's measurable. So if you're making something like leggings and you want a fabric that is more compressive or less compressive, you may need to talk to the shop owner to find out how compressive your fabric is. The biggest factor in whether your fabric has stretch recovery or not is the spandex content. Now, spandex is also known by a couple of other names, lycra and elastane. Those are both brand names of spandex. So they're all the same thing, and most knit fabrics will have some in it. So you'll commonly see 95% cotton, 5% spandex, or 5% lycra. And this is a very common percentage to have 5% spandex in your fabric, but you will find that some athletic knits, for example, have much higher spandex content in it, and this is a big factor in why they're so compressive. There are fabrics without spandex in them, such as 100% cotton interlock, and this is going to have very poor stretch recovery. Another important factor in choosing the right fabric for your project is the amount of drape or structure that it has. A drapey fabric, such as this bamboo jersey, when you hold it up, is going to drape straight down. And this really has a big effect on how the clothing will fit. For example, this dress that I'm wearing is also a bamboo jersey, and you can see that the sleeve just drapes down nicely. But if I used a structured fabric for this type of sleeve, it would be sticking out like this instead of draping down right next to my shoulder. This brushed French terry has a lot more structure to it. And you can see when I hold it up, it kind of sticks out a little bit. And there are fabrics with even more structure than this that will stick out even more when you hold them up and let them fall. Drape and structure are not always mentioned in listings for online fabric shops, so this is something that if you're not sure if a fabric has much drape to it, you may want to contact the shop owner and just ask if it's a good fabric for a project that needs some drape. So some examples of projects that would require some drape would be like a dress, for example, some types of tops, whereas if you're making something that is more fitted close to the body, like leggings or a sports bra or something like that, then the drape and structure doesn't really matter as much. For a project like that where it's going to be stretched all the time, it's not going to hang at all, so the drape and structure doesn't matter. And then there would be projects such as a hoodie where you're going to probably want a little structure, so it sits out a little from the body and looks cozy and comfy. Or if you're making a dress where you want a lot of volume in the skirt, then you would want a structured fabric. And here's an example of a sweater that requires a structured fabric. So this collar here has to stand out, and this would not work with a drapey fabric. You need a structured fabric for this. Drape is even more obvious when you're moving, but here are some examples in photos of the same pattern made in different levels of structure and drape. Patterns will generally specify in the fabric recommendations whether a drapey or structured fabric will look better on the design. But there are some designs, such as this one here, that looks good in both structured and drapey fabric. It's just a different look, so it depends what you're going for. A measurable characteristic of knit fabric is its weight, which is literally how much the fabric weighs. So this one here is a 200 GSM, which stands for grams per square meter, cotton blend jersey. And then this one here is 230 GSM, again grams per square meter, and it is quite a bit thicker and heavier. It literally weighs more, and this is going to affect the drape as well. The weight of it will affect how it drapes. In the United States, it will be measured as ounces per square yard, and that's usually just shortened to ounces. So for example, a 10-ounce fabric, a 12-ounce fabric. And the weight can be affected by a lot of different factors. It can be affected by the type of fiber that it's made from, so a cotton or the different types of fabric that it can be made from. It can be affected by how densely the fibers are knitted together. So if it's very densely knitted, then it's going to weigh more, just because there are a lot more fibers in there that are densely knitted together. And it can also be affected by how dense the actual fiber is. So if it's a thick or thin fiber that is knitted together. Sewing patterns don't often recommend a specific weight of fabric. They're usually more concerned about the drape or structure. But sometimes you'll see that they'll recommend bottom weight fabric. And this means a heavy weight fabric that is generally used for pants or skirts, thus bottom weight. All of the sewing pattern listings at sewpdf.com have fabric recommendations right in the pattern listing, so you know what fabric is recommended before you even purchase. So now you know how to pick the right knit fabric by its characteristics. But if you'd like to learn more about the different types of knit fabrics, such as jersey, French terry, make sure you watch the next video in this series where I go over the different types of knit fabric. And when that video is ready, I'll link it for you up here. And speaking of this series about knit fabrics, if you'd like to take your learning a step further, we've actually got a link down in the description to a DIY course about knit fabrics. So this course takes these videos and emails them out to you day after day with homework assignments that you can do in order to get comfortable with knit fabrics.